if you know what it is that you're talking about, debating MAGA airheads like a Caroline Sunshine can be a very straightforward thing. Just like we're going to see in this clip where Tyler Cohen goes head to head with Caroline Sunshine and just completely wipes the floor with her on gerrymandering, on the LA mayor race. He just repeatedly corners her and just dismantles her talking points. As usual, let's watch the clip in full. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts towards the end. Let's get into it.
Bring in Tyler Cohen, host of the No Lie with Tyler Cohen podcast, and Caroline Sunshine, former communications aide for President Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. Welcome back to both of you. Brian, let's start with you. You have been on this redistricting train for years, telling Democrats that you should redistrict. A lot of times they wouldn't listen to you. Now it seems like they finally are and realizing the risk of this. What's your reaction to what happened in Virginia and what Democrats should do now?
Look, I think that the reaction to what happened in Virginia is that it is the perfect encapsulation of the asymmetry between the two sides, where we have independent redistricting commissions in all of the Democratic weapons. And, even when you go to the voters, even when 3 million people show up to vote in a referendum that based on some small technicality, all of those voters' voices are going to be silenced. At the same time that we have Republicans in Florida, in Texas, in North Carolina, possibly South Carolina, Tennessee, all who've just decided by fiat that they're going to redraw their states' maps. I mean, basically ushering in elected legislatures, but redrawing the state maps without a single person weighing in on this stuff, basically ushering in Jim Crow 2.0 in the South. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to a point where we see no black representation in any of these southern states. And so I think it's a wake-up call to Democrats across the country. If you are a Democrat in New Jersey, New York, Maryland, Illinois, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, this is the time to start fighting back and recognize the urgency of this moment right here. Because Republicans don't believe that Democrats have a right to exist as a party. And so if we don't start fighting back and if we don't stop unilaterally disarming, we're basically going to good government ourselves into obscurity.
Caroline, what do you think of this? Is it Jim Crow 2.0?
Well, so you're opposed to this because you think that this dilutes people's political power unfairly? Is that why you're opposed to this?
I think that it dilutes the ability of people in certain jurisdictions to be able to vote for their representatives. Nashville has been cracked into multiple districts. Memphis has been cracked in multiple districts. And so there's no way that those people who live in those jurisdictions can vote for their representatives because the Republicans have purposefully gerrymandered those states to dilute their voting power.
So you're against diluting voting power?
I'm against gerrymandering.
Okay, so do you support then illegal immigrants being allowed to vote in elections?
Illegal immigrants don't vote in federal elections.
Well, illegal immigrants are who Democrats want to vote in federal elections.
But that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter if they want. It doesn't matter what anybody wants.
If you are against diluting political power for anybody, you should not want illegal immigrants to vote in American elections because we can't dilute the political power of American citizens.
But this isn't a discussion about that. And illegal immigrants are not allowed to vote in federal elections. What about this move of what the Supreme Court did and what Republicans are doing right now when it comes to redistricting? A lot of this started with President Trump telling Texas to get him more congressional districts.
Well, I think checks and balances played out here. I mean, the Virginia Supreme Court said this can't happen in 2026, but it could happen in 2028. So I'm not sure what the big deal is here. This went through the democratic process, and the Supreme Court, the judge struck it down, saying the language in the referendum was flagrantly misleading. And he's not saying it can't happen. He's just saying it can't happen in 2026 because it's unconstitutional. And he's correct, because that is a flagrant power play by Democrats to try to reshape the midterms in 2026.
So if you think
now,
that's a power play, was it a power play when Donald Trump demanded the same thing in Texas, said that he was entitled to 5 seats in Texas? Was that a power play?
Texas isn't Virginia. The states are sovereign according to the Constitution. The 10th Amendment says federalism. Each state has the right to conduct it differently.
I'm asking you if it was a power play.
How it played out in Texas, because Texas isn't Virginia.
I understand that Texas is not Virginia, but I want to know if you think if it was a power play.
Where does this go? Because you want to talk about power plays. I would love to know. Hasan Piker on your side of the aisle said today that as a result of this ruling, if a peaceful revolution is not possible, then violent revolution is inevitable. So do you agree with Hasan Piker?
I'm not Hasan Piker. Hasan Piker can.
But do you agree with that?
Hasan Piker can speak for himself.
What does he mean by that?
I don't know. You can ask him. I'm not Hasan Piker. I'm
But
Brian.
do you agree with that? Do you condemn that?
Call Hasan Piker
Where
and
do you
ask.
want to see this go?
What I'm here. I don't care what Hasan Piker says. I'm not Hasan Piker.
I don't think Brian's pushing for a violent revolution
Yeah,
either.
Are you or no? Just to be clear, because like, where does this go now that the Supreme Court in Virginia has ruled
Here's
this
where
is
it goes.
not
It goes to me calling on every Democratic elected official, either in the legislature or the governor's office, in Democratic states across the country, and demanding that they redraw maps to fight fire with fire and actually counteract what Republicans have done in a raft of different states across the country and what they continue to do in southern states across the country in response to the Voting Rights Act being gutted.
Do you think that there should be a national ban on gerrymandering to try to stop this whole thing around the country?
I'm not opposed to it, but I also believe that the Constitution says, the 10th Amendment, what is not outlined here is left to the states. And I think states have a right to decide their own process. And that's what I'm arguing with you is the process played out here in Virginia. It was put on the ballot on a referendum directly with the voters. It barely passed. The language was extremely misleading. There was an appeal. It then went to the state Supreme Court. What's the problem here? Checks and balances played out.
And you support a national ban.
100%. And in fact, when the Democrats put that forward, a national ban on gerrymandering in 2021, the Freedom to Vote Act, every single Democrat voted for it. Every single Republican voted against it.
Do you think the United States Supreme Court, which has supported Texas's right to do this and has supported California's right to do this, will support Virginia's right to do redistricting? You think they might overturn this?
No. I think that this Supreme Court has proven itself to be an arm of the Republican Party, if nothing else. And we have seen numerous instances where, whether it's this U.S. Supreme Court, where you had a bunch of justices beat their chest about the importance of precedent and the Voting Rights Act, which is, that precedent has been reaffirmed over and over and over again for the past 60 years, just like Roe was precedent that was reaffirmed over and over again. The Supreme Court stands for its own adherence to the Republican Party.
You think the Supreme Court might step in?
I don't think they're going to hear this. I don't see why they would. Again, the people of Virginia spoke. And what's interesting is when this referendum was put on the ballot, let's be very clear, it disenfranchised the rights and the voices, if we're talking about who got disenfranchised with a referendum, of rural Virginians. This referendum transferred power from majority of the state, which is rural Virginians, and consolidated it among the swamp, which is people who work in D.C. and live in Virginia. But I didn't hear you speaking up then.
And I, by the way, I would concede that when you have a gerrymandered map, certain people are disenfranchised, which is why this whole thing was sparked off after Republicans first went after Texas. I didn't agree with it when it happened in Texas, but what I don't want to see is unilateral disarmament. I think gerrymandering is a scourge all around. But if you really care about disenfranchisement, then you'll care about it when it happens right off the bat. You'll care about it when it happens in Texas. You'll care about it when all of a sudden Memphis is cracked into multiple districts, Nashville is cracked into multiple districts, and those people have no voting power because that's 100% Republican.
And that
now.
is true in California now, that Republicans are being disenfranchised by Prop 50.
But the difference
and the
is
districts are not. It's not fair to Republican voters. And the idea of like a 52-0 map here is not fair. Just like it's not fair what we're seeing in Tennessee and other places where there's going to be no Democratic representation. That's bad for democracy.
Correct. It's terrible for democracy.
Right.
The difference is there's only one party that actually supports a nationwide ban on gerrymandering, and that's the Democrats.
Violent revolution, to be clear, is also bad for democracy.
And
I
neither
agree.
Brian
Violent
nor
revolution.
myself are endorsing violent revolution, just to be clear. Always against
you.
political violence. I've said that repeatedly. Quickly, here.
So I'm going to leave it there. They go on to speak about reality star Spencer Pratt, who's running for LA Mayor. I'll leave the link in the description so you can check that out. But I really wanted to focus and mainly speak on this in regards to the whole gerrymandering epidemic that's basically taking place around the US. Now, the thing for me that is quite interesting about this, and if this doesn't show a lack of democracy, then I genuinely don't know what does. Democrats used independent commissions, citizen referendums, and 3 million voters showing up to weigh in on the redistricting maps. Republicans use legislative fiat, no public input, and they use no votes whatsoever, just raw power when it comes to redistricting maps. That right there is just clear and plain to see. One side is following the democratic norms, listening to the will of the people, and the other side is just bulldozing their way through things. And that's the Republicans. That's the reason as to why people try and make a song and a dance when someone like a Brian Tyler Cohen says Jim Crow 2.0. But it's not hyperbole. When Memphis and Nashville get cracked into multiple districts, and when voting right acts gets gutted and black communities lose representation entirely, that right there is the explicit goal. And we have to call it what it is. That right there is Jim Crow 2.0. It is not hyperbolic to say that in any way, shape or form. And let's have it right. Brian Tyler Cohen was 100% right in what he says in regards to the Supreme Court. They've 100% been captured without a shadow of a doubt. And when you really understand the precedent and the importance of that, this is the same court that swore the precedent was sacred, then overturned Roe, gutted the VRA. They function as an arm of the Republican Party and an extension of Donald Trump. Honestly, Republican operatives in robes. And the reality is this: it's now time for the American people to wake up and understand that they have to stop pretending otherwise. This Supreme Court is an extension on an arm of the Republican Party. And that's exactly what it is. Now, Caroline's line talking about checks and balances, that's just straight gaslighting. Straight gaslighting. A Republican-aligned court blocking a democratic referendum that 3 million people voted for is not checks and balances. That's just a straight power grab. Straight. It's a thumb on the scale. It is not democratic in any way, shape or form. But one of the things I consistently tell you guys on this channel is this is the problem with MAGA. You can't debate these people because they never debate in good faith. It's always in bad faith. You understand? When a MAGA can't defend things and can't defend their position, what they do is they pivot to manufactured culture wars that have absolutely no point in what it is that is being discussed and spoken about at the time. Illegal immigrants do not vote in federal elections. It's a lie. And they recycle this lie because they have nothing else. And they know that if they say it enough, guess what? Donald Trump's base will listen to it. Literally, that's exactly. I think there's a name for it. Is it flood the zone or something like that? They put out so many lies that people can't keep up. That's exactly what it is that MAGA do, because they don't have talking points, so they can just completely just make something up. And that's the reason as to why the host, even himself, Alex Michelson, he even had to push back on that. He even had to push back on it. I just think for me, the only point that it is that I'll kind of just end this with is this. Only one party supports banning gerrymandering nationally. That's just the truth. Every Democrat voted for the Freedom to Vote Act in 2021, and every Republican opposed it. That right there, when it comes to this whole gerrymandering conversation, is the conversation. Because this is the thing, if Republicans would have crossed the aisle with Democrats in 2021 for the Freedom to Vote Act, this conversation wouldn't be taking place. But Republicans started this in Texas, and now the Democrats are trying to fight back. It's clear as day to see that not only are Democrats fighting against Republicans, but they're also fighting against the Supreme Court as well. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comment section on this exchange. Honestly, a MAGA airhead, as usually, just humiliates herself and makes herself look completely stupid. But it's no surprise that's what it is that they do. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, hit subscribe and turn on the bell notification. And as usual, I'll see you guys in the next clip.